You suggest activity. Why don't you do this? And he explodes. Gets excited. A tamasic person gives excuses for not doing things, procrastinates. Whereas a rajasic person is nimble-footed, very excited about activity, but worldly activity. Even a tamasic person has hope. Whatever little sattvic content he has, if you give him enough to fire his imagination, he changes completely. An example of this is in that movie Laksh, right? You've seen it? Lazy youngster doing exactly what I've just described. And suddenly he finds a sense of direction, a purpose, and he does it. Now you need to understand that all parents complain about their children and they say, oh, he's lazy and he's not demotivated and this, that and the other. You must understand, children by themselves, there's nothing wrong with them. The problem is that we haven't been able to fire their imagination. We haven't been able to inspire them with anything. And because we lead tamasic lives ourselves. But once they get this, their imagination is fired with something higher, my God, they get activity. So then pramada. Pramada is miscomprehension, carelessness. People associate, this is rampant everywhere. You say, well, so what? You've done this wrong, so what? There is no awareness of the fact that there is something wrong. There is no awareness that you could do it better. You just accept. Mediocrity is the order of the day. Pramada. Generally, heedless of environment, heedless of the state of your physical body, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, heedless of the kind of emotions that you're entertaining, heedless of whether you're employed or unemployed, discourteous, vulgar. This is tamas. Now, what is interesting is, in verse 11, the construction was completely different. He said, when the light of wisdom streams forth, sattva is predominant. Whereas in 12 and 13 he says, when rajas is predominant, then greed, etc. arise. And in this verse he says, when tamas is predominant, darkness, etc. arises. Why the difference? The difference is because he's speaking, when he says light of wisdom, he means the energy, the light of Atman. That is always there. The only difference is a sattvic individual has been able to purify his mind, and so therefore the light of wisdom streams forth. A rajasic and tamasic person has clouded it, shrouded it, covered it up. So even though it's there, it doesn't shine forth. It's not apparent. You don't see it. That's the difference. That's why the construction, the language is different in these three verses. 14.
Yada sattve pravruddhe tu pralayam yati deha bhrut tadottama vidan lokan amalan pratipadyate.
In these few verses 14 to 18, he speaks of the effects of sattva, rajas, tamas. What happens in future when you entertain rajas and tamas, or when you cultivate sattva? So he starts with sattva. He says, if sattva is predominant when the embodied being meets with death, one attains the stainless worlds of the knowers of the Supreme. When he says embodied, he means the mind, intellect and vasanas, means causal body and subtle body, for which we need to understand what is death. Death and birth are nothing but the transference of the vasanas. You understand vasanas? Vasanas means unmanifest desires. For practical purposes, you take it as desires. The transference of your mind, intellect and desires from one body to another is called the death of the former body and the birth of the latter body. Okay? Why does this transference take place? The transference takes place because nature has given us an opportunity to start afresh. See, what happens is, we have millions of desires, vasanas in our system, and this is called the totality. Out of these, many are in the subconscious. Out of these, there are a few desires that are very strong and therefore are pressing for fulfillment. And it is these few desires, they are called prarabdha vasanas, which determine our present life. We are born in this world only to exhaust the prarabdha vasanas. Right? The sanchita vasanas, which are the totality, may or may not get fulfilled. That's up to you. But the prarabdha vasanas will definitely get fulfilled. That's a guarantee. So, these prarabdha vasanas which are wanting fulfillment determine the environment in which you are born. They determine, for instance, the country in which you are born, your gender, your personality, the environment, whether all that is custom made for the fulfillment of these prarabdha vasanas. These get exhausted. But as human beings, we also have an additional capability of dealing with the sanchita, means dealing with the total vasanas. And a person who's on the spiritual path is one who diminishes and eventually eliminates the sanchita vasanas and gets to the state of realization. But never mind that. Now what happens is, when these prarabdha vasanas get exhausted, the next set of vasanas, the next set of desires are waiting to waiting for fulfillment. Just as right now in this hall, we are here till 8 o'clock. And the next program is going to come on, so there are people waiting in the wings to take over the stage. It's like that. Okay? The next set of vasanas are waiting for fulfillment. But the difference is, the next set of prarabdha vasanas, next set of vasanas that want fulfillment, perhaps are completely different from the vasanas that have brought you into this embodiment. Right? Therefore, it necessitates a change. You got that? Now, if in this lifetime you have made a concerted effort to develop sattvic qualities, after death, where will you be born is the question. Where will you be born? You will be born in an environment that is conducive for your vasanas, for the fulfillment of your vasana. So if you have sattvic vasanas, where will you be born? You will be born in the stainless worlds, or what fabulous words he uses. Amalan lokan. Mala, dirt. Amala, dirtless, means vasanaless. The dirt here is referred to vasanas. So therefore, you will be born in the stainless worlds, spotless worlds. How do you get to the spotless world? Of knowers of the Supreme. Means you will be born in an environment where there will be people of spiritual enlightenment. What a wonderful birth to have. For which, what is the price you have to pay? Develop sattva here, now. And then you understand the urgency of it, because there is no guarantee when that death will come. Right? So therefore, is this, Shankaracharya in Bhajo Govindam, in verse 6, he says that, you see what he says is, in this lifetime, you can't carry, at death, you can't carry anything with you. You can't carry your wealth with you, you can't carry your family with you, you can't get the same wife who was pampering you and nourishing you and nurturing you and so attached to you. The moment you die, that same very wife is afraid of you, afraid of the body. And that's what he says, verse 6.
Yavat pavano nivasati dehe tavat pruchati kushalam gehe gatavati vayau deha paye bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye.
As long as there is breath in the body, everyone will come to you. Later on, when death comes, your very wife will be afraid. So, you can't carry anything with you. And yet, during our lifetime, we prefer to chase objects of the world, none of which can be transferred. You know, you must focus on some assets that you can transfer to your next life, no? What's the point of having everything going for you? You're a multi-millionaire, this, that and the other, and if you've lived life in such a way that in the next life you're born in the across the street in a slum. No point. So therefore, invest alongside everything else that you are doing, invest a little bit of your time and effort in collecting assets that you can transfer to the next life. And that moment of movement, you don't know when it will come. That's the urgency. Whatever you have to do, do it now, here. Because if you don't do it here and now, you're never going to do it. So when do we start? Right now, you got it. Next verse, 15.
Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tatha pralinastamasi mudhayonishu jayate.
Going to death in Rajas, one is born among those attached to action. Similarly, dying in Tamas, one is born in the wombs of the foolish. Again, a magnificent verse. The choice of words is fantastic here. Mark the words. Karma sangishu means attached to action. Those attached to action. A sattvic individual is very active, but he is not attached to his actions. This is the difference. A Rajasic person is terribly attached. I don't know whether you've seen it. You feel claustrophobic in an environment where someone is attached to action. The attachment is, oh, when is the next party we're going to? And for that, what clothes do I need to wear? And how much money do I need to earn? And every day there is this constant focus on worldly things with terrible attachment. Whatever it is that you do, you get attached to. You might say, so what if I get attached? How does Krishna, why does he object to it? The objection to that is not because Krishna objects to your attachment. The problem is, wherever you get attached, two things happen. Number one, the relationship becomes flawed. Even when you have the object of attachment, you are in a constant state of sorrow. Because the fear is, if you have it, oh, when will I lose it? Those people who have earned a lot of money, you go and ask them, they say, apart from greed, wanting more, they are afraid of losing. They are not sure when the market will collapse and they lose the money, or the business will go down and they lose the money, or the budget will be against them and they lose the money. Some fear or the other is there. And as a result of that fear, as a result of not contacting the object of attachment properly, eventually they lose it. It's only a detached person who can enjoy the world. It's only a detached person who can retain the world. But the irony is, the detached person really doesn't want the world. The Rajasic person who's attached to it, is dependent on it, is sorrowful when he has it, and eventually loses it. So even if you want to retain objects of the world, you want to retain your relationship with children, you want to retain the relationship with a spouse, you want to retain your money, position, etc., you have to have a basic sense of detachment, never mind total detachment. Because otherwise you lose it. This is a fact, this is the truth. You take it or leave it. You've got to be able to see what's happening in your own life and in the lives of others, and then apply it to the extent that you can. Then he says, so a person who dies in rajas, who dies with a rajas, predominance of rajas in him, where will he be born? Because the rajas needs like-minded people, he'll be born among those who are attached to action, and that is terribly stifling for a person. So then he moves on and he says, a tamasic person is born in the wombs of the foolish. That is the worst curse that anybody can have. Now, unintelligent, foolish people, to be in an environment with such people, when you're born in an environment like that, is really terrible. So when he speaks of death, he's not talking about, of course he's speaking of physical death, from one janma to the other, from one life to another. But he's also talking about within our lifetime, we are constantly born in a new experience and we're dead in the earlier experience. And it's amazing that you change your thoughts and your environment completely changes. Entertain sattvic thoughts, you will always meet fine, noble, refined people in life, and you'll wonder why people are calling this Kali Yuga. The same person, you change your thoughts, make them rajasic, you entertain selfish thoughts, and your environment changes. You're born in the wombs of those who are attached to action. Suddenly your friends will change. You will have business people, you will have share brokers, you will have party animals, and you know there are people who change so much that their wardrobe also changes. Suddenly flashy, gaudy clothes they start wearing. So even within a lifetime, when your mind changes, your environment changes. And then born in the wombs of the foolish, superstitious people who say this simple thing, like, I believe you're not supposed to give a pair of scissors or a knife from one individual to the other, because the superstition is that you'll start fighting, right? A sattvic individual, it is impossible for him to get into a fight irrespective of how many knives he handles back and forth. But you're born in if you have to deal with superstitious people and you are sattvic, it's worse than death. But we don't understand it because we are foolish ourselves. So we are quite happy in the environment with foolish people. 16.
Karmana sukrutasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasa phalam.
The fruit of good action is said to be sattvic and pure. The fruit of rajas is sorrow, and ignorance the fruit of tamas. Again, there is a difference in construction. When he speaks of sattva, he says the fruit of good action is sattvika. Why? It's like this. When water is seen through a blue glass, it appears blue, right? When water is seen through is poured into a red glass, it appears red. But when water is poured into a colorless glass, do you say it appears colorless? You say it is colorless. Similarly, what he's saying is, sattva is the result of performance of good action. Sattva doesn't, all that you can do is get to pure sattva. Beyond that, no human effort can get you there. So once you get your personality to 100% sattva, there is an automatic transition to the next plane of consciousness, which is the state of realization. So therefore he puts it differently. The fruit of good action is sattvic. So if you want to develop sattva, what must you do? Perform good action. Whereas when it comes to rajas and tamas, he says, the fruit of rajas is sorrow. If you entertain selfishness, there is only one end, and that is sorrow. So if you are content to be sorrowful, please be selfish. But if you don't want sorrow, you have to get out of that selfishness somehow or the other. And that is the challenge before all of us. So, how to get out of it? You figure it out. The Gita, Vedanta has prescribed 3 practices by which we can get out of selfishness. Karma Yoga, which is acting in a spirit of dedication to a higher cause. Acting for what they call as Loka Sangraha. They say sensible people act only for 2 purposes. Atma Shuddhi and Loka Sangraha. Atma Shuddhi, self-purification, and Loka Sangraha, welfare of humanity. There is no other reason for you to perform actions. And all of us are performing actions for a reason other than Atma Shuddhi and Loka Sangraha. So are you surprised that we are sorrowful? And then, ignorance is the fruit of tamas. See, unless you react, you can't gain knowledge. There must be a fundamental understanding that I am ignorant, I don't know, and acceptance of it. Then only will you gain knowledge. But here, every person thinks, I know. Everyone is willing to give advice, unasked for free advice to people. What you need to do is give yourself that advice. So, the fruit of good action is sattva, the fruit of rajas is sorrow, and ignorance the fruit of tamas. So therefore, don't be smug in the belief that you are at a high level. Become acutely aware of your deficiencies, and then you'll work yourself out of it. If you want to cover it up, that in itself is tamas. Shrouding is tamas. Selfishness, rajas. But if you want to get to sattva, what must you do? Perform good actions. And let's start right now. Thank you.